Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this video. It's me, your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and this is the latest installment of my horror movie superlative series. I am collaborating with my really good friend, Carlin Cook. Well, we're up to 1975 this week, halfway through the decade of the 70s. And if you haven't already, I please ask that you do hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Really appreciate it. Do it for both of our channels and hit the notification bell so you don't miss a video. Carl puts out 3 or 4 videos a week, really great in-depth movie reviews. And I have my Nails in a Coffin series, which is out every Friday as well. So I'll put a link up there for you guys to check those out. Appreciate it. Again, after you watch this video, please go to Carl's channel, link in the description. Watch his video with the same title as this one. And then after you watch both videos, go to the community tab on his page. And we need you guys to vote on who you thought had the better picks, whether those picks closely resembled your own or whoever had the better justifications. It's all good fun. Just please watch both videos first and then vote. We really appreciate it. Well, that's about it. If you guys are familiar with it, let's get started and let's pick out some horror movie superlatives for 1975. My selection for the most amazing horror movie of 1975 goes to Jaws, the first big summer blockbuster. This movie made numerous people scared to go in the water for years. Directed by the icon Steven Spielberg, starring Roy Scheider, Robert Shore, and Richard Dreyfuss. Not only is this movie one of the most amazing horror films of 1975, it's one of the most amazing horror films ever made. You know, this movie had an impact on tons of people, literally making them scared to go into the ocean. And the score is also iconic. Everybody knows the Jaws theme. It's as well known, probably even more so, than the Halloween theme. And by the way, I am covering the Halloween films in my Nails in a Coffin series. The shark, Bruce, only had 4 minutes of screen time since it was malfunctioning, so they couldn't use it that much. But that really worked in benefit of the movie, not showing the shark all the time. It really built the ominous presence of the shark and made it that much more effective. One of my favorite parts of the movie is Quint's monologue about the sinking of the USS Indianapolis. It's one of the greatest moments in movie history. If you guys don't know, I spent 22 years in the Navy, and I extensively studied the sinking of the USS Indianapolis for one of my duty stations. And this speech still gives me chills on how accurate it was for those sailors that survived it. And the fact that Robert Shore did this all in one take is just incredible. I mean, there's not much else to say about Jaws. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. Easily the most amazing horror movie to come out in 1975. And yeah, easy selection for me for this category. My selection for the So Bad It's Good film goes to Trilogy of Terror. I pick a lot of horror anthologies for this horror movie superlatives. Trilogy of Terror is only 3 stories. Like my friend Josh will say, it's in the title. It's kind of short for an anthology film. It only clocks in around 72 minutes. Movie probably could have benefited from another story. Most people know this movie from the third story in it, Amelia, which stars Karen Black. She's in all the stories in the movie. Amelia is pretty much just a one-woman show. It's her and this wooden possessed doll. I believe it's possessed by a Zuni warrior, if I'm not mistaken. And the doll keeps trying to attack her. The movie does have some flaws. It's a bit cheesy. I was disappointed by the score. It felt really lackluster. Didn't add anything to the film. But it's totally worth the watch, even just for the third story alone. I mean, yeah, the first 2 are okay, but the movie, you know, if everyone knows this movie for that third story, so it's worth the watch. It's not a movie you're going to watch again and again like other anthologies like Creepshow, VHS, or other horror anthologies. Even Tales from the Crypt is a lot better than this one. But like my friend Carlin says, he says every movie is worth at least one watch, and this movie is totally worth one watch. It's not a good movie. It's not a bad movie, but it fits pretty comfortably into the So Bad It's Good movie, and that's why I selected it for this year. For my most WTF selection, I'm going with the Rocky Horror Picture Show. This movie is WTF in the best way possible, and I had to include it on my list here. I think it's WTF for all the good reasons. When you see this movie in a theater, there's audience participation. They call out lines, they use props, they dance along with the characters on screen. It's a blast of a movie, a lot of fun to watch. And when I experienced this movie for the first time, and when Riff Raff started singing the Time Warp, I was like, WTF, and then everybody gets up and they start dancing. It's a very WTF feeling if you're experiencing it for the first time. Like the audience participation is fun. Just it's got so many classic lines in it. Fantastic movie. Like I said, WTF for all the right reasons. It's an excellent movie. One of my favorite movies in general. And I had to find a spot for it on my list. I certainly could have put this for most unique as well, but I have another movie that's way more unique than this one. But WTF fits really comfortably for the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And for the best gore selection, I went with David Cronenberg's Shivers. This was his directorial debut. He did direct some TV movies prior to this one, but this was his first film that had a theatrical release. Shivers can actually give you shivers when watching it, especially if you don't like slug-type creatures. David Cronenberg is known for great body horror, and this movie has it. If you haven't seen Shivers, it's about a parasite infection that turns people into sex-crazed fiends. There are some unsettling scenes of gore, but that's because it's David Cronenberg. The body horror is great in this movie. I like how in some of the scenes you see things moving underneath the character's skin, and it's really just gross. And Carl and I have been discussing in the past how, 1970s is kind of difficult for best gore because gore and horror films really didn't take off to the late 70s and early 80s. But for 1975, I think Shivers is an excellent choice for best gore, David Cronenberg's body horror. For my most unique movie, and probably one of the most unique movies I've ever had the pleasure to see, and I have actually had to thank Josh Spiegel from Movie Timelines for letting me know about this movie, Defula. It's a movie about a deaf Count Dracula. It's the only movie I've ever heard of that was made specifically for the deaf and hearing impaired. It is a very unique movie, and I have to recommend it if you can find this movie. I'm sure there's some trailers out there and reviews on this movie on YouTube somewhere to get you the feel of it. But the movie is about Count Dracula, and all the actors actually perform sign language. There is no dialogue. However, there is a voiceover if you're unable to read sign language. I can't, so I had to watch the movie with the voiceover. But my friend Josh said he actually watched the movie with no sound on it to get the real feeling of it, trying to interpret the sign language, and I think that's an excellent idea, and I had to do it as well. So, yeah, Defula is extremely unique. The only movie I've ever heard of made specifically for the deaf, hearing impaired, where every single character performs sign language. There is no dialogue, and it's totally worth the watch if you can find this movie. And I really, really enjoyed it. And that's because it's unique, because it was just a really fun movie to watch. So, most unique, it's definitely going to have to go to Defula. My most overrated selection is going to go to Salò, the 120 Days of Sodom. I'll never watch this movie again. I'll be honest with you, I probably made a 75% of this movie and I had to turn it off. I couldn't sit through the entire movie. I'd rather watch The Human Centipede 3 than ever watch Salò again. This movie has notoriety for a reason. It's an effed movie, and I really don't want to tell you what it's about. If you know horror movies, you've probably heard of it, and if you have, let me know down in the comments below what you actually thought of the movie. I'm gonna pick it's overrated because I was just disgusted by it. I don't know why the movie was made. It made me really feel uncomfortable. I couldn't even sit through the entire movie, but yeah, it's just not my cup of tea at all. So, yeah, don't even want to talk much more about this insanity of a movie because, yeah, it's not worth talking about. So, most overrated selection, I went with Salò, the 120 Days of Sodom. And finally, my selection for the most underrated horror movie to come out in 1975 goes to Deep Red, directed by one of the icons of horror, Dario Argento. This movie is an excellent giallo about a psychic who was murdered and the man who discovered the body tries to solve the case. Excellent score like most giallos, great visuals, and the movie's called Deep Red, and I love the use of red in this movie. It's classic giallo where the killer wears a raincoat, a fedora, and is always cloaked in darkness. You get a real pulp feeling from this movie that kind of transports you back to the time when it took place. It's a whodunit film, filmed with excellence, and this movie would have been very close to my most amazing spot if not for the stiff competition with movies like Jaws. But if you're a fan of Giallo, I would imagine you've actually heard of this movie. Again, directed by Dario Argento, Deep Red is just a really, really solid example of a fantastic Giallo, and it's one of my favorite Giallo films out there. So, yeah, my most underrated selection for 1975. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are all my selections. Here's a quick summary. Most amazing, stay out of the ocean, Jaws. So Bad It's Good, Trilogy of Terror. WTF movie, let's do the time warp again with Rocky Horror Picture Show. Best Gore, David Cronenberg's body horror directorial debut, Shivers. Most unique, one of the most unique movies I've ever seen, not just for 75, but most unique movies I've ever seen, Defula. Most overrated, Salo, The 120 Days of Solemn. And most underrated, Dario Argento's Deep Red. Thanks again for watching this video. Now, please go to Carlin's channel, link in the description, and watch his video with the same title. And then go to the community tab on his page and vote for who you thought had the better picks. Also, as always, please let me know your selections in the comments down below. I love reading those. It's one of my most favorite part of doing this series, so I really appreciate it. And if you haven't already, I will ask you again if you could please hit that subscribe button on both of our channels and the notification bell so you don't miss a video. You won't miss any of Carlin's really great movie reviews. And I have this series out every Wednesday, and every Friday I have a new Nails in a Coffin series. And I'm currently staying in the Midwest at Haddonfield covering all the Halloween movies, so those are a lot of fun. Take care, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy. I am your friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete, and remember, with great kills, there must also come great nails.